I think with Taylor, she's obviously had a very difficult position. She's this A-list superstar, and then she's got to come in and win over the fans of the Chiefs, the people that are going to be very protective of their player. Um, and I think this gave us an example of how well she does it. She has none of that kind of A-list diva stuff about her. She's not up there doing selfies. She's not up there looking perfect, a la Kardashian. Um, she's up there and she's chugging back beer. She knows when the camera's on her. She knows what the ritual is. And not only that, she does it in profile, so you can see she's doing it properly. It's not one of those front on, actually, I'm dribbling it all down myself. She stands there in profile as though she's belting out a song at a stadium, and she chugs back the glass and then whops it down on the cat. And that's got to win the fans over. That's where she shows them that I know I've just been doing this huge stadium concert in Japan, but back here, I'm one of the fans like the rest of you. And I think you could see their faces of utter respect for her at that point. I think that was total integration. And then you get her with her gal pals, because the other thing about Taylor is that she's got this big thing of loyalty with her friends, her girls, her posse as well. So she had Blake, who was just the best guest to get along there, because Blake actually outdid her when it came to the kind of teenager with a crush fangirl stuff. She's launched herself. I don't know what had happened. They must have scored or something, but she's literally launched herself like a koala at Taylor. Um, and they've gone back to teenage years, those teenage years when you just wanted to be a big fan of some big sporting star. And I think that's absolutely adorable. And again, that shows that neither of them, though they're both big stars, that they're both acting like teenage fans, like everybody else in the stadium, probably. I know there was a big problem. I probably stoked it a bit myself as well, because she was tending to be a bit of a distraction. Everybody was looking at Taylor's reaction when she was first dating him. She was doing all the sort of gurning and yelling, and I think there was a point at which his game was not as strong for a little while, and I think people were thinking, oh, his mind's up there. She's distracting him. She's distracting and bringing a whole new load of fans that don't really understand what they're watching, etc. But I think from just that ritual at the Super Bowl, I think that just displayed that she's now one of them, and I think they would have been very accepting at that point. That was a mutual victory dance that they were all doing. It was like she was part of them. She just doesn't have those airs and graces as well. So yeah, I think that was her moment of massive acceptance apart from anything else. I'm the biggest cynic. I will sniff out a showmance anywhere. You really have to prove to me that a relationship is genuine, particularly when you get these kind of what look like maybe cobbled together power couple things going on. Um, I had a big problem with Travis, to be honest, because he obviously likes the fame. He was obviously loving the idea of dating this superstar, but it was always her fangirling him, wearing his Chiefs outfits, wearing the red lipstick. She's just flown miles to get there for his Super Bowl game. Had he been turning up to all of her concerts? I had missed him if he had. Has he changed his wardrobe to suit hers like she has with him? So it was a little bit weak on his side, and that made me slightly doubting of what was going on. But then Travis turned up in this black glittery suit, so full Taylor Swift celebrity looks. I thought, oh well, good for you. And then we got this ritual of victory. Now, I was watching it like a hawk. What it was, as far as I'm concerned, was a step-by-step body language guide to their actual relationship, because I think there were things there that they couldn't act. One thing with Travis, he would have been surfing a wave of adrenaline at that point. Now, when we get to that point where we've achieved something fabulous like that, you're almost oblivious to what's going on around you. Most people would say, well, I know I was being photographed, but I can't remember what anybody said to me, what happened. But he absolutely reserves his attention for Taylor. And I found that very telling. So even when he was on that wave of adrenaline, even when he was nearly made tearful by his victory, the minute that she comes up, his eye contact is on her. And I haven't seen that from him before. She's always been the one doing the kind of fangirl bestowed kisses. And she did kiss him, but there was a detailed synchronicity of their rituals here in terms of their body language that made it look as though it was absolutely two-way in terms of displays of affection. He started nuzzling her, and that was really interesting. It was as though he turned to her because he was overwhelmed, I think, by emotion at that point. But when he was overwhelmed, it was her that he turned to. He nuzzled into her neck. She became almost like his mum at that point. She was patting him and rocking him and looking as though she realized he was getting a bit tearful and wanting to comfort him. She put her arms around his torso, and that rocking that they were doing and the nuzzling that they were doing together was a really good synchronized emotional response that was going on. He also did what's called a double dip. So he greeted her, he nuzzled her, they kissed one another, and then he kind of emerged smiling, and I thought that's going to be the point where you're going to be obsessed by the cameras now. And I don't know if anybody saw the last time they did this. At that point, she kind of backed away very maturely. She sort of blended into the background and allowed him his moment of glory. But this time he was not going to let her go. He double dipped. He went back to nuzzling her again, and he went back and kissed her again as well. And for me, that showed that she is a genuine, huge priority in his life. Even at that moment of glory, I think he was overwhelmed not just by the victory, but also by his love for her as well. So even a cynic like myself, I could not help but watch that and think, this does look genuine. The mum comfort signal shows part of the role that she's got in his life, but then the very passionate kiss, but then the way that she then put her arms around his torso and nuzzled into him. It's kind of mutual support, mutual comfort, and I think mutual love as well. It really did seem to work in that moment. I was personally very pleased that he didn't suddenly do a big. I thought, if you get down on your knee now, I am going to do projectile vomit anyway, but it's just going to be too much. You know, those big public proposals that are very fashionable with non-celebrities now as well. I'm always very dubious because in actual fact, it's something that should be a little bit more intimate, a little bit more well meant. And also, she's got her big win recently of the big award. You've got his big win of winning that game. In a way, it would have been one step too much in terms of how you imprint your good memories in life. You know, it maybe shouldn't have turned into that. That would have possibly just been a bit more showmancy to me if he'd have done that, you know, ripped open his shirt and got, "Will you marry me, Travis?" And no, please don't go there. So I think it was a good thing that he didn't. Are they getting close to that? I would possibly hope that they're going to wait a bit, because I think they've got a lot of things to work through yet. They have very strong emotions for one another, but they've got very different lives. And the fact that she had to come flying all the way back from Japan to watch him play, how are they going to manage that? You know, I think they've probably got quite a bit of the day-to-day, how we live together to work out. You know, he had to rent a place for them to be together there. She's got a lot of other priorities in her life. Will her career suffer if she's just following him around everywhere? Will his... I really do hope that they give it a bit of time anyway, but they clearly do look besotted with one another, which is clearly a big step. But I would almost suggest that they're in a stage where they want to give it a couple more months, really, because how many times is she going to want to drop everything from a concert that she's doing in Japan and come? That's the kind of thing you do in the really early days when you're completely besotted with your partner. And I won't say that that dies, but it does. So, you know, unless she's going to be making that superhuman effort all the time, have they got anything completely feasible in terms of how much time and effort and energy they can spend together. So I I think they're getting close, but I'm glad they didn't suddenly spontaneously combust at that particular event. I think that would have been overly cheesy, really.